Alright guys, welcome to my series. I'm gonna call it Advice from a Former SMEX Offender Counselor. So I spent the majority of my career working for the Department of Corrections where I am. But one of my roles once upon a time was I was a SMEX offender counselor. So I worked in a male facility where the entire compound was designated for SMEX offenders. And I taught SMEX offender treatment. And I learned so much during this time, truly. And I'm so happy that I did, because I know that we hear about stuff on social media, but when you really see it firsthand, it's a whole nother level of perspective that you get. So in the SMEX offender treatment, one of the things that we did was the inmates would have to complete a disclosure. The disclosure was pretty much their entire life history, their entire history of offending, and then they were subject to polygraph tests. In these polygraph tests, if we detected that they were being deceitful, they would fail out of the treatment. And if they failed out of the treatment, it meant that they had to discharge their sentence. In order to parole their sentences, they had to successfully complete the treatment. So that's just kind of a gist to give you of how much insight that I have and how much I learned and took away from it. So my biggest reason for doing this series is because the majority of my following is moms, and the amount unanimously of how many of these predators got a hold of their victims was by dating the mom or being married to the mom, or even if they were the biological dads. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the signs to look out for. First of all, you will never be able to identify a predator by what they look like. When I started there, I could not believe what some of these men look like. Every single race, every level of class. I mean, you had, your guys that grew up in poverty, and then you had your guys who grew up with money. There was cops, pastors, teachers. I mean, every profession, you name it, there was someone there with a SMEX charge. So number one is a lot of these men were very charming, very talkative, could hold a conversation, someone that you would carry a conversation with in the outside world if you didn't even know what they had done in their past. So I personally am just not trusting of people who are overly charming. They freak me out. Another thing is, if you're a single mom and you're struggling, you don't have really a lot of support system, that's one way a predator really identifies you and potentially their victims is, they meet a woman who doesn't have a lot of support and they become that support. So they're very attentive, very helpful, and they try to step in and really make you trust them. So if you're a single mom, you have kids, and you meet a man who you feel like, wow, this person would just do anything for me and my kids, they'll help me, whatever. Immediately, I would put some guards up and really watch behavior. And what was the other thing I wanted to say? Sorry, I get a little sidetracked. So many of these offenders were repeat offenders. And although they had SMEX charges on their record before, they were still able to get involved with women who had children. And that would just blow my mind. You already have a record of doing this, yet you still had access to a woman's children. And a lot of the times it's one, they didn't know. They didn't do background checks. They didn't know that the history was there. or the offender would tell them that it wasn't true, that it was, Crazy Ex did this because I XYZ, and these moms would believe them. Please never, ever believe that an offense like that didn't really happen. I understand, every 1 in a million, an offender can be innocent of something, but like majority not. And if they were sentenced and did prison time for it, there's so much evidence that has to go into that. I understand maybe back in the day, but these days, no. There's forensic interviews that the children go through. There's just so much that goes on that you can't negate the fact that this happened. And for me, it's like always believe kids, always. Okay, so check people's history, please, for the love of God. Like, it's pretty common to reoffend. One thing is there is no cure for this. There is no cure for predators. Really, the treatment is teaching them how to make different choices, but you can't teach them to change their desires. So that will always be in their head, even if they don't act on it and they don't re-victimize. That's a component that you can't, take out. There's so much more. I will make more videos. I was also once a correctional officer in a women's prison and a counselor in a women's prison. So I have so many stories. I really have to write them out and really do a better story time or advice time. But that's it for now.